The first time the mirror said her name, she thought it was a trick of exhaustion. The second time, it whispered a secret she had never told another living soul. By the third night, it was no longer asking, it was demanding a confession.
Welcome to Horror Audiobook.
This is not a story about a haunted object. This is a story about identity, about what happens when something begins observing you more closely than you observe yourself. Dr. Evelyn Marrow built her career disproving hysteria, exposing false memories, dismantling belief in the supernatural. But when an antique mirror begins speaking her name in the dark, revealing memories she buried decades ago, her expertise becomes useless. Because this mirror doesn't show reflections, it shows what you refuse to see, and it will not stop whispering until it is acknowledged. Chapter 1. You should never answer when it calls your name. Dr. Evelyn Marrow did not believe in ghosts. She believed in oxygen deprivation, in misfiring neurons, in the fragile architecture of memory bending under suggestion. She believed in fear as a biological function, a useful tool once, now mostly an inconvenience. And she believed that every haunting, if examined closely enough, collapsed into something disappointingly human. The lecture hall was full. 300 students sat in tiered rows beneath the muted hum of fluorescent lights, their faces illuminated by laptop screens and expectation. Behind Evelyn, projected in sterile academic font, glowed the title of her presentation: Mass Hysteria and Environmental Suggestion, Why We See What Isn't There. She paced with calm precision, tailored charcoal suit, silver watch, dark hair pulled back so tightly it seemed resistant to disorder. Humans, she said evenly, are pattern-seeking organisms. When confronted with ambiguity, the brain fills gaps. When confronted with silence, it invents sound. And when confronted with grief, she paused, it invents presence. A slide clicked forward, grainy images of so-called haunted mirrors pulled from viral internet forums. Shadows in reflections, faces where there should be none. Mirrors, she continued, are particularly effective triggers. They produce dissociation. They subtly delay recognition. The brain momentarily fails to reconcile reversed symmetry. A student raised a hand, so when people say their reflection moved. Evelyn smiled, not unkindly. The mind fills silence with fear. It was her favorite phrase, precise, dismissive, final. After the applause, polite, academic, she gathered her notes and allowed herself the smallest flicker of satisfaction. Debunking was a public service. Clarity was kindness. That was how she saw it. That was how she had to see it. The antique shop smelled of dust and oxidized brass. Evelyn had not intended to stop, but the mirror caught her eye through the storefront window, tall, narrow, framed in dark carved wood, that appeared almost wet under the fading afternoon light. It was beautiful in an uneasy way. The glass wasn't smooth. It carried faint distortions like breath trapped beneath ice. The frame bore intricate floral carvings that, upon closer inspection, twisted subtly into shapes that were almost but not quite faces. She stepped inside. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with a voice like dry paper, watched her without speaking. "I'm looking for a prop," she said, "for a lecture." His gaze drifted to the mirror immediately. "That one's been here a long time," he replied. She examined the back panel, solid oak, iron clasp slightly corroded. No hidden speakers, no wiring, no mechanical trickery. "How old?" "Late 19th century, I believe, a state piece." She studied her reflection. The shop lighting was dim, yet the glass seemed darker than the room warranted. Her image looked softened, as if seen through water. She tilted her head. Her reflection followed perfectly. "Of course it did." "I'll take it." The shopkeeper hesitated just slightly. "Some things," he murmured, "aren't meant to be studied." Evelyn smiled. "Everything is meant to be studied." Her apartment was minimalist: white walls, orderly bookshelves, abstract art that implied depth without offering it. The mirror stood now in her bedroom, opposite the bed. It fit too well. That was her first thought. The proportions were precise, as though the wall had been measured for it decades before she moved in. She tested it immediately. Flashlight along the edges, no gaps. Knuckle against the glass, solid. Back panel removed, nothing hidden within the frame but dust and time. She recorded herself standing before it, blinking deliberately, tilting her head, raising her hand. Perfect synchronization. She laughed softly at her own thoroughness. The mind fills silence with fear, she reminded herself. Night came gently. Evelyn read until her eyes blurred, then turned off the bedside lamp. The room dissolved into darkness, save for the faint city glow filtering through the blinds. The mirror was a vertical shadow against the wall. She did not feel watched. She did not believe in watched. Sleep came in layers, shallow at first, then heavier. And at 2:17 a.m. she woke. Not abruptly, not violently. Just aware. The room was still. No traffic, no hum of neighboring apartments. Even the radiator had gone silent. Her eyes adjusted slowly. The mirror stood exactly where it should. Her digital clock glowed 2:17. She almost drifted back under. Then, Evelyn. It was soft. Breath soft. Close enough to feel like it had formed near her ear. Her heart did not race immediately. Instead, her mind cataloged possibilities. Hypnagogic hallucination. Auditory carryover from dream state. Neighboring apartment television bleeding through walls. She lay still, listening. Nothing. Seconds passed. The silence deepened. The mind fills silence with fear, she whispered into the dark. Her voice sounded steady. She rolled onto her back and faced the ceiling. The mirror stood within her peripheral vision. She told herself not to look. And then, of course, she did. Her reflection lay in bed. Still, eyes open. That made her frown. She blinked. Her reflection blinked. The angle was awkward. Perhaps she had misjudged what she'd seen. The darkness distorted perception. She exhaled slowly. "You're projecting," she murmured to herself. "You expected something." Expectation is a powerful architect. She reached for her phone and activated the voice memo app, placing it on the nightstand. If it happened again, she would have data. She lay back down. Minutes passed. The city breathed again outside, distant sirens, wind against glass. Her pulse steadied. She began to drift. Just before sleep reclaimed her. Evelyn. This time it came from across the room. From the direction of the mirror. She did not move. Her skin prickled. Her brain searched desperately for structure, for logic, for anything ordinary. The voice had not echoed. It had not vibrated. It had been intimate, as if spoken by someone who knew precisely how her name felt when said aloud. The silence that followed felt heavier than the whisper itself. She forced herself upright in bed. "Who's there?" she said, irritated at her own compliance with instinct. No answer. The mirror reflected her exactly. Her breathing, her tension, her raised voice. She stood slowly and crossed the room. The hardwood floor was cool beneath her feet. She stopped an arm's length from the glass. "Projection," she whispered. Her reflection whispered it too. Perfectly synchronized. She leaned closer. Her own eyes stared back, sharp, intelligent, rational. Then, a flicker. so subtle she almost missed it. Her reflection's lips parted, a fraction of a second before hers did. Her breath caught. No, that wasn't possible. Microlag, visual processing delay. She leaned closer still. The glass was colder than it should have been. Evelyn, the mirror breathed again. This time, the voice did not echo in the room. It echoed inside her skull. Her name not spoken but remembered. Her phone on the nightstand remained silent. No recording spike. No captured sound. Just the quiet hum of an apartment at 2:19 a.m. And the creeping realization that something had spoken. Without making noise. Her reflection stared back. Unblinking. Waiting. And somewhere, beneath her practiced rationality, beneath her degrees and data and dismissals, a thin hairline crack formed. Because for the first time in her life, Dr. Evelyn Marrow did not immediately have an explanation. And the mirror did not look empty anymore. It looked patient. Chapter 2. Mirrors don't reflect, they observe. Evelyn did not sleep again that night. She sat upright against the headboard, bedside lamp on, notebook open in her lap. The mirror stood opposite her, tall and still, as if nothing had happened. 2:43 a.m. She pressed stop on the voice memo recording and replayed it immediately. Static. The faint rustle of sheets. Her own breathing. At 2:17 nothing. At 2:19 nothing. No whisper. No distortion. No anomaly. She rewound and listened again. Silence. Her jaw tightened. Auditory hallucinations during sleep-wake transitions are common, especially under stress, especially when primed by expectation. She had purchased a mirror specifically to discuss perceptual distortion. Her brain, opportunistic and theatrical, had supplied atmosphere. It was almost elegant. The mind fills silence with fear, she murmured. She looked up. Her reflection looked back, pale, composed, rational. Perfectly synchronized. Still, morning came in diluted gray light. The world resumed its ordinary rhythm, traffic, distant sirens, the coffee machine's mechanical sputter. Ordinary. She showered, dressed, tied her hair back tightly. When she returned to the bedroom to retrieve her briefcase, she paused. The mirror seemed darker. Not visibly so. Just impressionistically. The glass appeared to absorb more light than it returned. She stepped in front of it, tilted her head left. The reflection followed. Right. Followed. Blink. Blink. Normal. She leaned forward until her breath fogged the surface. The condensation bloomed, then faded. And for a split second, just before it cleared completely, she thought she saw something behind her reflection. Not in the room. Behind the glass. Like depth where there should be none. She straightened quickly. Empty. Flat. Ordinary. Her pulse elevated slightly, irritatingly. Projection. Sleep deprivation amplifies pareidolia. The brain hunts for faces in noise. She left for campus. The lecture that afternoon felt subtly different. Not because of the students, not because of the material. Because of the mirror. She had brought it with her. It now stood at the front of the auditorium, illuminated by controlled stage lighting, a physical example for demonstration. Mirrors, she said calmly, packing beside it, create microdelays in recognition processing. Studies show that when participants stare into their reflection in low light for extended periods, distortions are commonly reported. She invited a volunteer. A sophomore named Daniel stepped forward, nervous smile intact. Stand here, Evelyn instructed. Look directly at yourself. Maintain eye contact. Do not look away. The room dimmed. Minutes passed. The students shifted uncomfortably. At minute 4, Daniel swallowed. "It feels weird," he admitted. "How?" Evelyn prompted. Like it's not exactly me." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Evelyn nodded. "Your brain struggles to reconcile symmetry over time. Minor distortions appear exaggerated. Faces seem to shift." Daniel stiffened slightly. "I think it just blinked weird." Evelyn stepped beside him. "It blinked when you blinked." "I know, but—" "Expectation," she finished gently. The room lights brightened. Daniel exhaled. "It's fine now." Of course it was. Context restores perception. Applause followed, controlled, academic. Yet as Evelyn wheeled the mirror back toward her office storage, she felt an inexplicable reluctance to turn her back on it. Just a momentary hesitation. Irrational. She dismissed it. That night she prepared differently. Tripod. High-definition camera facing the mirror. External microphone calibrated to capture low-frequency sound. Laptop open, waveform monitor active. "If you are external," she said quietly to the empty room, "you will produce measurable disturbance." She almost smiled at herself. She turned off the lights. The room settled into shadow. The camera's small red indicator glowed steadily. 11:12 p.m. Midnight passed uneventfully. 1:03 a.m. She fought sleep with clinical irritation. 1:58 a.m. Her eyes burned. She stood and splashed water on her face in the bathroom. When she returned, she froze. Her reflection in the mirror was already standing in the bedroom. But she was still in the doorway. Her mind rejected it instantly. Impossible. She stepped forward. The reflection stepped forward. Perfectly aligned. You imagine the still frame. Fatigue. She checked the live camera feed on her laptop. The mirror displayed her. Slight digital grain. Normal latency. Nothing more. She let out a slow breath. And then, 2:17 a.m. The air changed. Not colder. Thicker. Like pressure before a storm. The waveform monitor flickered. A faint spike. Barely visible. She stared at it. Another spike. Then, "Evelyn." The whisper was not audible in the room, but the microphone captured it. A thin, breath-like distortion threaded through static. Her stomach dropped. She replayed the last 5 seconds. There it was. Her name. Zoft. Close. Not from her. Not from outside the window. From nowhere locatable. Her hands trembled not from fear, she told herself, but from adrenaline. She leaned toward the mirror. "Source," she whispered. The glass reflected her intensity. Nothing else. She reviewed the footage. Frame by frame. At 2:17:13, her reflection's mouth moved. At 2:17:14, her real mouth remained still. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She replayed it again. The reflection's lips parted. Formed the shape. "Evelyn." A full second before the whisper registered on audio. Her throat went dry. Desynchronization. Not perceptual. Not fatigue. Recorded. Measured. Verifiable. She looked up slowly. The mirror showed her looking up. Perfectly timed. But the eyes in the reflection did not look startled. They looked intent. Focused. As if studying her reaction. "You're a projection," she said softly. The reflection's lips curved. Just slightly. Not quite a smile. And then, without sound, the reflection mouthed 4 words. "I see what you hide." Her breath stuttered. "No," she whispered. The microphone captured only her voice. The reflection did not repeat the phrase. It only watched. The room returned to stillness. The pressure eased. 2:19 a.m. Her laptop showed no further spikes. Her reflection stood quietly again, mimicking perfectly. But something had shifted. The whisper had escalated. It was no longer simply her name. It was a statement. Observation. She stepped closer. "Show me," she demanded. Silence. The glass felt colder than before. And deep within its surface, not visible but sensed, there was depth. Not physical depth. Intent. Hours passed. Though outside, the night stayed the same. By dawn, Evelyn had not blinked in nearly a minute. Because now she understood something she had not considered before. If the mirror were simply reflecting, it would react. But this was anticipatory. It moved first. It spoke before sound existed. It knew when she would lean forward. It knew when she would breathe. It was not reflecting her. It was studying her. And somewhere in that awareness, she felt it. Patience. As if it had been waiting not for fear, but for acknowledgement. Her phone buzzed suddenly with a calendar notification. She flinched violently. The reflection did not. It remained still for half a second longer than it should have. Then corrected itself. That half second was enough. Evelyn slowly backed away. Because for the first time in her career, she could not reduce what she was seeing to neural misfire or sensory distortion. The mirror had responded, measured, adapted, and if it was adapting, then it was learning. The morning light crept across the bedroom floor, reaching the base of the frame. The glass did not brighten. It remained dark, absorbing, watching, and just before she left the room to make coffee, she heard it again. Not through the microphone, not through air, but inside the quiet cavity of her mind. Soft, certain. I see what you hide. Chapter 3. It knows what you buried. Evelyn did not go to campus the next day. For the first time in 12 years, she canceled her morning seminar without explanation. She told herself it was procedural. If there was an anomaly, it required isolation, control, documentation without distraction. That was what she told herself. But when she walked back into the bedroom mid-morning, coffee cooling untouched in her hand, it was not curiosity that slowed her steps. It was reluctance. The mirror stood where it always had. Tall, carved, patient. Daylight revealed every detail of the woodwork now, vines twisting into faces, faces dissolving into leaves. The craftsmanship was exquisite, too exquisite. She stood before it again. "You produced measurable sound," she said calmly. "You displayed desynchronization. That suggests external stimulus or internal dissociation. Both are testable." Her reflection spoke in perfect sync. Measured, clinical. She watched her own eyes carefully. They were tired, red-rimmed, human. "Say it again," she demanded. Silence. The room smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. She leaned closer. The glass was cool, not cold, just slightly below ambient temperature. "You claimed you see what I hide," she said. "What do I hide?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, the surface of the mirror rippled. Not visibly at first. It was subtle, like a breath passing beneath the glass, a distortion not of shape, but of depth. Her reflection blurred. And behind it, water, just for an instant. Clear, trembling water. Then the glass snapped back to normal. Evelyn stepped back sharply, heart racing. "No," she whispered. Visual hallucination. Stress-induced imagery. Her brain supplying metaphor. Water meant vulnerability, memory, depth. She pressed her palms to her temples. Think. Think clinically. She had not slept properly in 2 nights. Auditory phenomena had been captured, yes, but interpretation remained subjective. She turned away from the mirror. And the whisper came. Not from the glass. From inside her. "You left her alone." Evelyn froze. Her spine locked. The voice was softer than before. Not accusatory. Not loud. Simply certain. Her breath shallowed. "I don't have a sister," she said automatically. The words felt rehearsed. Polished. Used. The mirror did not respond. But the air thickened again, the same pressure as 2:17 a.m. Her mind resisted. Hard. There are protective mechanisms embedded in cognition. Trauma is often compartmentalized, edited, filed away. She had written papers on repression. She had lectured on it. She had never considered herself susceptible. "You left her alone." The words were clearer this time. And with them came sensation. A memory not fully formed. The smell of bleach. Sharp. Clinical. The hum of a bathroom vent. Running water. No. She squeezed her eyes shut. This was suggestion. Self-induced memory construction. She had primed herself by asking what she hid. The brain obliges narrative gaps. She opened her eyes slowly. The mirror was ordinary again. Her reflection tense pale. "You're not external," she said quietly. "You're emergent, a cognitive artifact." The reflection's lips curved faintly. And without sound it mouthed. "Say her name." Her stomach turned. Her hands trembled now, not from adrenaline. From something older. Something she had not accessed in years. "I don't." But she did. The name hovered just beyond reach. Like a word on the tip of the tongue. Like something deliberately blurred. The mirror darkened again. The surface no longer perfectly reflective. It seemed deeper. Layered. And then the image shifted. Not her bedroom. A small tiled bathroom. Yellowed grout. A porcelain tub. The sound of water running. A child's laughter echoing faintly. Evelyn staggered backward. "No," she breathed. This was impossible. The image sharpened. 2 girls. One older. One younger. The older stood near the doorway. Arms crossed. Angry. The younger sat in the tub, splashing. 5 more minutes, the younger voice pleaded. The older girl rolled her eyes. "You said that 10 minutes ago." The smell of bleach intensified. The bathroom door. White. Hollow core. With a brass lock. Evelyn's throat tightened. "I didn't." The image flickered violently. Water rising. Sloshing. The younger girl laughing, then coughing. The older girl hesitating. Anger still simmering. Then, the click of the lock turning. The door closing. The older girl walking away. The mirror snapped back to her bedroom. Evelyn gasped, as if surfacing from underwater. Her knees buckled slightly. She gripped the dresser for support. "That's not real," she whispered. But the smell lingered. Bleach. Faint. Impossible. Her mind scrambled for structure. False memory syndrome. Confabulation under stress. But the details. The brass lock. The chipped tile near the drain. Those were not general. They were specific. You left her alone, the whisper repeated. Her chest constricted. She forced herself to breathe. Inhale 4 counts. Exhale 6. Regulation. Regulation restores clarity. I was 8, she said suddenly. The words escaped before she could filter them. Silence followed. Her reflection's eyes widened slightly. 8. There it was. A crack. A fissure in the wall she had built. She stepped closer to the mirror again. If there was an incident, she said carefully, it was accidental. The glass seemed to pulse faintly. The reflection's lips parted. You locked the door. Her vision tunneled. The memory sharpened. Anger. Embarrassment. A fight earlier that evening. The younger girl, small, stubborn, laughing at the wrong moment. You're so annoying, the older girl had snapped. The sound of water splashing louder. Stop it, she'd warned. The younger girl splashed again. And something in the older one, something petty and cruel, had wanted silence. Just 5 minutes of silence. The door closing. The lock turning. Just until she calmed down. Just until. The scream. Muffled. Water hitting tile. Silence after. Evelyn staggered back violently. No, she gasped. That's not how it happened. But she couldn't remember how it happened. Only that afterward there were adults. Ambulances. Whispers. And a story. An accident. A tragedy. No blame. Children don't know better. The narrative had solidified over years. Polished smooth. But the mirror was scraping at it. You left her alone, it repeated. And this time, the voice did not feel like accusation. It felt like documentation. Her pulse roared in her ears. Her hands shook uncontrollably now. I was 8, she said again, as if that absolved everything. The reflection tilted its head. Not in sync. Not quite. You knew, it mouthed silently. Her breath hitched. The room felt smaller. Walls closer. Air thinner. This was not haunting. This was excavation. The mirror was not inventing. It was uncovering. And somewhere deep inside her, beneath academic accolades, beneath controlled composure, a child stood in a hallway outside a locked bathroom door. Listening. Not moving. Because anger had felt righteous. And silence had felt deserved. Evelyn covered her ears. Stop, she whispered. The mirror did not stop. The glass darkened once more. And behind her reflection, water began to rise again. Slowly. Steadily. Until it reached the reflection's mouth. And still it spoke. You left her alone. The afternoon light shifted. Hours passed. Though outside, the world remained indifferent. When Evelyn finally lowered her hands, the mirror had returned to stillness. But something fundamental had changed. She could no longer deny the name forming in her mind. No longer deny the image of small fingers against porcelain. No longer deny the possibility that her life's work, dismantling delusion, had been built upon one. Her phone vibrated on the dresser, startling her. A voicemail notification. Unknown number. She stared at it for several seconds before pressing play. Static crackled. Then, a child's voice. Soft. Wet. Heavy. Her blood ran cold. The message cut off abruptly. No caller ID. No duration listed. She looked slowly back at the mirror. Her reflection stared at her. Water dripping silently from its hair. And for the first time, Dr. Evelyn Marrow understood something she had never allowed herself to consider. This was not about fear. It was about truth. And truth, once unearthed, does not return quietly to the grave. Chapter 4. The reflection that moves first. The voicemail was gone by morning. No missed call. No saved message. No record of static or the child's voice that had said, "Evie." Evelyn checked 3 times. Call logs. Deleted messages. Cloud backup. Nothing. If she had imagined it, then her mind was escalating beyond auditory suggestion into full narrative construction. If she had not imagined it, then something had crossed a boundary. She stood in the kitchen for a long time, unmoving, coffee untouched in her hand. The apartment felt subtly altered, not visually, not structurally, but atmospherically. Like a room after someone leaves, the air still holding their shape. She walked slowly toward the bedroom. The hallway felt longer. Or perhaps she was moving more carefully. The mirror waited. Sunlight poured across the floorboards, stopping just short of the frame. The glass remained darker than the room warranted. She positioned herself directly in front of it. "Today," she said quietly, "we test control." Her voice was steady again. Professional. She placed a metronome app on her phone and set it to 60 beats per minute. A calm, steady ticking filled the room. She raised her right hand on the downbeat. The reflection followed perfectly. Left hand. Perfect. Blink on beat 12. Perfect. She exhaled. Fine. Again. She increased the tempo. 80 beats per minute. Raise hand. Turn head. Blink. Perfect synchronization. Her pulse slowed slightly. The brain, under stress, exaggerates perceived delay. Microseconds feel extended when vigilance increases. She leaned closer. Maintained eye contact. The metronome ticked. Tick. 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 Her reflection stared back. Unwavering. Then, on beat 23, her reflection blinked. She had not. The metronome continued its rhythm. Tick. 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 Evelyn's stomach dropped. She froze completely. Her reflection stared back at her, eyes open now, but something in its gaze had changed. It looked aware. Not startled. Not confused. Aware. Her mouth went dry. "That was anticipatory muscle memory," she whispered. Her reflection's lips did not move. She swallowed. Blinking is semi-autonomic. The brain predicted the beat and executed early. Her reflection tilted its head. A small motion. Deliberate. Evelyn had not moved. Her heartbeat thudded painfully in her ears. "No," she breathed. The metronome ticked on. She lifted her right hand slowly. The reflection did not. It remained still. Watching. The delay stretched. A full second. 2. Then the reflection raised its hand. Slowly. Not mirroring her. Matching her. Like someone copying after observing. Her chest constricted. "This is dissociation," she said through clenched teeth. Mirror self-misidentification is documented in neurological cases. Her reflection smiled faintly. Not widely. Not grotesquely. Just enough. And it was not her smile. It was patient. Tick. 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 The metronome sounded louder now. Or perhaps her nerves amplified it. "Move," she whispered. The reflection did not. "You move when I move." Silence. Then softly, the reflection mouthed words. No sound. Slowly. You locked it. Her breath left her lungs in a sharp exhale. The bathroom door. The brass lock. The smell of bleach. I was 8, she snapped. The reflection's smile faded. Its eyes darkened. You knew. The metronome app glitched. The ticking distorted into uneven spacing. Tick, tick, tick. The room's air thickened again, pressure building behind her temples. You're a projection of guilt, she said louder now, an emergent psychological response to suppressed trauma. The reflection leaned forward, closer than the glass should allow. And in that instant, Evelyn understood something she had not wanted to. The mirror was not responding to her movements. It was initiating them. She stepped back. The reflection stepped forward. The distance between them did not change. But the intent did. You left her alone. The whisper came not from the room but from behind her eyes. Her legs felt weak. She turned abruptly away from the mirror. The bedroom door stood open. The hallway beyond was empty. She forced herself to breathe. Calm. Regain control. She would introduce variables. She walked into the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. The scent of bleach lingered faintly. Impossible. When she lifted her head, her reflection in the bathroom mirror blinked normally. Perfect sync. Ordinary. Her pulse eased slightly. Different mirror. Different response. Context matters. She returned to the bedroom. The antique mirror loomed where she'd left it. She approached slowly. I'm not afraid of you, she said. The reflection's lips parted before hers. Not yet. This time there was sound. Barely audible. Like breath passing over glass. Her heart slammed violently against her ribs. You don't exist, she whispered. The reflection's eyes flickered. And for a fraction of a second, it did not look like her. The features were the same, but stripped. Harder. Older. The softness of denial gone. It was her face without editing. You locked the door, it said clearly. The words vibrated through the air. Not inside her head. Not through electronics. In the room. Audible. She staggered backward, colliding with the dresser. No, she gasped. The memory surged violently now. The argument. The water splashing. Her hand on the brass lock. Just until she stopped crying. Just until she calmed down. 5 minutes. That was all. 5 minutes. Her reflection stepped closer again. But the glass did not ripple. Did not distort. It simply seemed thinner. As if something pressed against it from the other side. Say her name, it demanded. Her knees buckled. She hit the floor hard. Tears blurred her vision. I don't remember, she sobbed. The reflection crouched, perfectly mirroring her position now. But its expression held no confusion. Only expectation. You remember, it said softly. The pressure in the room intensified. The metronome app stopped entirely. Silence swallowed the apartment. And in that silence, she heard something new. Not the whisper. Not accusation. Water. Running. Distant. Behind the glass. Her reflection turned its head slowly, toward something beyond her line of sight. Toward the interior of the mirror. As if listening to someone else. Then it looked back at her. She's still waiting. Evelyn screamed. The sound tore from her throat, raw and animal. The reflection did not scream. It only watched. And when her voice finally broke into ragged sobs, the mirror returned to stillness. Perfect synchronization restored. Her reflection matched her breathing again. Her trembling, her tears. Ordinary. The pressure lifted. Air returned to the room. Minutes passed. Or hours. She did not know. Eventually, she forced herself upright. Stared into the glass. Nothing unusual. Nothing moving independently. Nothing speaking. But her eyes looked different. Less certain. More fractured. And somewhere deep inside her, beneath rationalization and defense mechanisms, a child's voice echoed faintly. Not accusing. Not angry. Just small. Evie. She backed away slowly. Because now she understood the pattern. It escalated each night. Name. Observation. Memory. Movement. Next would not be subtle. Next would not be patient. And as she turned off the bedroom light that evening, though she did not intend to sleep, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. In the darkened glass, her reflection did not disappear with the light. It remained faintly visible, standing, watching her, even when she stepped out of view. Chapter 5. Obsession is the first stage of surrender. Evelyn did not remove the mirror. That was the first sign. A rational mind, confronted with a destabilizing stimulus, eliminates the stimulus. She knew that. She had advised patients to do exactly that: remove the trigger, change the environment, regain control. Instead, she adjusted the lighting. She repositioned the bed. She moved her desk into the bedroom so she could work while facing it. Not avoidance. Observation. That was how she justified it. Observation requires proximity. 3 days passed without incident. No whispers. No movement. No distortion. The mirror behaved perfectly. Flawlessly reflective. Synchronizing with her every motion. It was almost disappointing. She found herself standing before it longer than necessary. Testing microexpressions. Tilting her head. Watching the subtle asymmetry of her own face. At times, she leaned so close her breath clouded the glass. Waiting. Say it, she would murmur. Silence. The stillness began to itch. On the 4th night, she caught herself speaking to it without intending to. I've reviewed pediatric trauma patterns, she said softly while brushing her hair. Memory distortion is common in early childhood. Her reflection brushed in sync. Calm. Measured. You are a projection, she continued, a manifestation of unresolved guilt. The reflection's lips curved slightly. Not enough to call a smile. Just enough to register intention. You want me to say her name, Evelyn said. The reflection blinked. Perfectly timed. But it did not deny it. Her colleagues began emailing. Missed meetings. Canceled seminars. She responded with controlled vagueness. Personal research. Private archival work. She told herself she needed isolation. External voices would contaminate data. In truth, she did not want witnesses. Because the more time she spent in that room, the more she felt something subtle shifting, not in the mirror. In herself. She began timing her day around it. Morning observations. Afternoon documentation. Night watch. At exactly 2:17 a.m. she was always awake now. Waiting. The first night she waited deliberately, nothing happened. The second night she nearly drifted to sleep. And then, Evelyn. Soft. Close. Her eyes snapped open instantly. She did not move. Good, she whispered. Her reflection stared back from across the dark room. Perfectly aligned. But the voice had not come from the room. It had come from inside her skull again. "You stopped performing," she said quietly. Silence. The reflection's eyes seemed sharper tonight, more defined. "You want something," she continued. The air thickened slightly. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood. Slowly, deliberately. "I will not be manipulated by suggestion." The reflection stood too, but its posture was different. Straighter, more assured. She stepped closer. The floor felt colder than it should. "Speak clearly," she demanded. The reflection's lips parted. No sound emerged. Instead, 4 words formed silently. "Say it out loud." Her pulse accelerated. "That is not how trauma resolution works," she whispered. The reflection tilted its head. Water shimmered faintly behind the glass. "Not flooding. Just present." "You want confession," she said. The word felt dangerous. The reflection's expression softened slightly. "Not cruel. Not mocking. Expectant." "Why?" she asked. The whisper came faintly this time. Not accusatory. Not sharp. "We can be whole." Her breath caught. Whole. The word resonated differently. Not punishment. Integration. "Your fragmentation," she said, "a dissociative construct." But the certainty in her voice was thinner now. The reflection stepped closer to the glass. So close its forehead nearly touched the surface. And for the first time, Evelyn noticed something horrifyingly subtle. The reflection's skin looked warmer, more alive. Her own hands felt numb. "You're tired," she muttered to herself. Sleep deprivation creates derealization, depersonalization. She had lectured on this, but she could not ignore the sensation creeping over her. As if she were slightly out of phase with her body. As if the mirror version of her occupied more weight. "You're not real," she said again. The reflection smiled. This time fully. Gently. Almost sympathetically. "And you are," it whispered. The sound was audible. Soft. Carried on breath. Her heart stuttered painfully. "I am Evelyn Marrow," she snapped. The reflection's eyes darkened. "Are you?" The question echoed longer than it should have. Because beneath it lay something corrosive. Identity is narrative. Memory is scaffolding. If the memory shifts, so does the structure. She felt suddenly unsteady. The room tilted slightly. She reached for the dresser to steady herself. The reflection did not reach. It remained upright. Balanced. Watching. "You locked the door," it said calmly. Her throat tightened. "I was a child." "You knew." "I was angry." "You waited." The words struck harder now. Not screamed. Not whispered. Delivered. Factually. "You wanted silence," it continued. The smell of bleach seeped faintly into the air again. Her stomach turned. The memory surged forward. Not fragmented this time. Clearer. Her sister's name hovering just beneath the surface. "Say it out loud." The phrase pulsed in her mind. Her lips trembled. "If I say it," she whispered, "you go away." The reflection's expression changed. Something almost like pity. "No." The word was soft. Devastating. Her knees weakened. "Then what do you want?" The reflection leaned closer to the glass. Its eyes gleamed faintly in the dark. "I want you to remember correctly." The running water sound returned. Subtle. Behind the glass. Evelyn squeezed her eyes shut. "I remember enough." "No," it replied, "you remember safely." Her eyes flew open. The reflection's mouth was still moving, but she was no longer speaking. "You left her alone," it repeated. And this time, something new accompanied the words. A sensation, as if her spine were hollowing, as if something were draining slowly from her chest. The reflection's color deepened. Her own hands looked pale, translucent almost. She stumbled backward. The reflection did not. It remained steady, solid. "You're not taking anything," she gasped. The reflection's smile widened just slightly. "You're giving." The word echoed. "Giving." She shook her head violently. "No." But she felt it. Each time she engaged. Each time she stood here and argued and defended and denied. She fed it. Attention. Memory. Energy. Obsession. Obsession is focus. Focus is surrender. And suddenly, she understood something she should have realized days ago. It had stopped whispering randomly, because it no longer needed to. She was coming to it willingly. At 2:17 a.m. Every night. Waiting. She stepped back until her spine hit the wall. "I won't stand here anymore," she said hoarsely. The reflection watched calmly. "You will." "I won't." "You already are." Her breath hitched. She glanced toward the bedroom door. The hallway beyond felt impossibly distant. When she looked back, the reflection was no longer mimicking her posture. It stood straighter, closer to the glass. One hand lifted, pressed flat against the interior surface. She did not lift hers, but she felt pressure against her palm, as if something met it from the other side. Cold, not freezing, just present. Her heart thundered violently. "You need me," she whispered suddenly. The reflection's eyes flickered. "You need me to say it." Silence stretched, and in that silence, the faintest crack appeared in the corner of the glass. Not physical, perceptual, like the beginning of a fracture in reality. The reflection leaned closer. "Say her name." Her throat closed. The word trembled on her tongue. The name she had not spoken in decades. The name buried beneath academic brilliance and curated denial. Her lips parted, and just before sound formed, the mirror went completely dark. Not reflective, not shadowed, empty. She stood alone in her bedroom. No reflection, no image, nothing. Her pulse roared in her ears. "Come back," she whispered before she could stop herself. The mirror remained blank, and in that unbearable emptiness, she felt something far worse than fear. Withdrawal. Chapter 6. The mind will protect itself until it can't. The mirror remained empty for 12 hours. No reflection. No distortion. No whisper. Just a dark, depthless surface swallowing light. Evelyn stood before it for most of that time, waiting. At first she told herself it was an optical illusion, a trick of angle, a coating reacting to temperature. She adjusted lamps, opened curtains, shone a flashlight directly into the glass. Nothing returned. Her beam disappeared into it, as if the surface were not glass at all, but an aperture. A window without scenery. By afternoon, her composure began to fracture. "Come back," she said again. Her voice sounded thin, small. She swallowed hard. "This is avoidance," she muttered. "Psychological resistance. The mind withdraws stimulus when integration approaches." She almost believed it. Almost. But the silence felt intentional. Like punishment. Or worse. Like patience. By evening the smell began. Faint at first. then unmistakable. Bleach, sharp and sterile. The scent of hospital corridors, of bathrooms scrubbed too hard. She stood very still in the bedroom doorway. The odor did not come from the hall, not from the kitchen. It was strongest near the mirror. Her breath trembled. "You're escalating," she whispered. No response, but something inside her loosened. A seam splitting open. Because without the mirror showing her reflection, she had nothing to argue against. No face to confront. No lips to deny. Only memory. Unfiltered. Uninterrupted. She sat on the edge of the bed. And for the first time, she allowed herself not to resist. The image came slowly. Not forced. Not distorted. Clear. A small house. Peeling wallpaper. Late afternoon sunlight filtering through lace curtains. 2 girls. The older one, 8 years old. Thin. Serious. Quick to irritation. The younger 4. Laughing too loudly. Too often. "Stop it," the older girl snapped, standing in the bathroom doorway. The tub water sloshed over the porcelain edge. The younger girl giggled, splashing again deliberately. "Mom said 5 minutes." "I don't care," the older one muttered. She had been embarrassed earlier that day. Teased at school. Mocked. And her sister's relentless laughter had felt like ridicule. It had felt deliberate. She wanted silence. Just a moment of silence. "Get out," the older girl demanded. "No." More splashing. Water hit tile. The older girl's jaw tightened. "Fine," she said. And she stepped inside. Turned the brass lock on the bathroom door. Just until she stops. Just until she cries it out. Just until I feel better. She walked down the hallway. Sat on her bed. Folded her arms. Waiting. The sound of water continued. Then, coughing. At first playful. Then sharper. Then, a thud. The water kept running. The older girl froze. Her heart pounding. She stood slowly. Walked to the bathroom door. Placed her hand on the knob. Paused. Still angry. Still certain it was dramatics. "Stop it," she called through the door. No response. The water kept running. She unlocked it. But she did not open it immediately. Because something inside her, something petty and stubborn, wanted the silence to stretch. Just one more second. Then she opened the door. Water overflowing. The younger girl slumped sideways in the tub. Eyes half open. Mouth beneath the surface. Still. Evelyn's breath shuddered violently as the memory reached its unedited conclusion. She had not found her sister immediately after locking the door. She had waited. Not long, but long enough. The adults had called it an accident. Children don't understand risk. No one asked about the lock. She had not volunteered it. Because in that small delay, there had been choice. And that was unbearable. The smell of bleach intensified. Tears slid silently down her face. "I didn't mean to," she whispered to the empty mirror. "I didn't think." The glass shifted, a ripple spreading across its dark surface. And slowly, her reflection returned. But it did not look as it had before. The eyes were hollow. The skin pale. Wet. "You waited," it said gently. Her breath hitched. "I was a child." You knew she was underwater. Her hands shook violently. "I thought she was pretending." You heard her coughing. The memory confirmed it. The hesitation. The pause at the knob. The choice to wait. 5 seconds. Maybe 10. But time behaves differently in crisis. Those seconds had weight. You wanted silence, the reflection continued. Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor. Yes, she sobbed. The word tore from her like something extracted. Yes. The room fell silent. No pressure. No distortion. Just truth hanging in the air. The reflection watched her. Not cruelly. Not triumphantly. Simply observing. You locked the door, it repeated. Yes, she whispered. And you waited. Yes. The admission settled into the room like dust after collapse. For a moment, there was relief. A strange, terrifying relief. The truth had shape now. Edges. Definition. She was not haunted by something external. She was fractured by something internal. And fracture, at least, could be understood. The reflection knelt to mirror her posture. This time perfectly synchronized. Say her name, it said softly. Her throat tightened. The name rose fully now. No blur. No obstruction. Clara, she whispered. The sound shattered something inside her. 12 years of academic certainty trembled. Her name was Clara. The reflection closed its eyes, as if absorbing it. The running water sound ceased. The smell of bleach faded slowly. The room felt lighter. Her breathing steadied. For the first time since the whisper began, the mirror felt still. Truly still. You see, she said hoarsely, it was memory. The reflection opened its eyes again and smiled. Not gently, not sympathetically, but knowingly. Yes, it said. The word carried weight, but not all of it. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean? The reflection tilted its head slightly. You remember the lock. Her pulse quickened. You remember the waiting. Yes, but you don't remember what you said. Her breath caught. Cold slid down her spine. I didn't. The mirror darkened slightly around the edges. You don't remember what you whispered through the door. The bathroom memory sharpened again. The hallway. Her hand on the knob. The silence inside. And then, her voice. Low. Cold. If you're going to cry like that, maybe you should just stay in there. Evelyn's blood ran ice cold. No. No. That couldn't be real. The reflection leaned closer. You don't remember saying that. Her mouth opened in horror. But somewhere deep inside, she did. A flash of irritation. A cruel sentence spoken under breath. Not meant to harm. Not meant to matter. But spoken. Before the coughing turned real. You wanted her quiet, the reflection said. The room darkened subtly. The air thickened once more. You didn't just wait. Her chest tightened painfully. You punished. The word echoed. Punished. And the worst part was that she could not fully deny it. Tears blurred her vision. I was 8, she whispered again. Yes, the reflection agreed softly. And you meant it. The silence that followed was heavier than any whisper. Because now the mirror had done something irreversible. It had not invented. It had not distorted. It had completed. The truth was whole now. And with wholeness came something else. Not absolution. Not yet. Something deeper. Something hungrier. The reflection stood slowly. Evelyn remained on the floor. And as the glass regained full clarity, she noticed something subtle but devastating. The reflection's eyes were brighter, more solid, while her own felt dimmer. "You're integrating," she whispered weakly. The reflection smiled. "No," it said softly. "I'm replacing." The word hung in the air like frost. Evelyn's breath faltered, and for the first time since the whisper began, she understood the true danger. Confession was not the end. It was nourishment. Chapter 7. It doesn't want your fear, it wants your truth. After the word replacing, the mirror went quiet. Not dark, not distorted, simply reflective. Ordinary. Evelyn remained on the bedroom floor long after her breathing steadied. The air felt thin, like the atmosphere after a storm that had uprooted something essential but left the structure standing. "I'm replacing." The phrase looped in her mind, not as a threat but as a correction. Replacing implied vacancy. Replacing implied something already hollowed out. She forced herself upright slowly, using the bed frame for support. Her legs trembled with a weakness she could no longer blame on sleep deprivation. She looked into the mirror. Her reflection looked back, perfectly synchronized. Blink for blink, breath for breath. If someone had walked into the room at that moment, they would have seen nothing unusual. And that was what unsettled her most. The next 3 days passed in silence. No whispers, no desynchronization, no scent of bleach, no sound of water. The mirror behaved exactly as a mirror should. Evelyn went through motions of normalcy. She showered, ate small portions of food, answered 2 professional emails with carefully constructed sentences that implied productivity. But she did not leave the apartment, and she did not cover the mirror. She tried once. She draped a heavy gray blanket over the frame and stepped back. The absence of reflection felt worse than the presence of it. The room seemed unbalanced, incomplete. She lasted 27 minutes before pulling the blanket down. When the glass reappeared, her reflection stared at her with an expression she did not recognize. Not mocking, not patient, concerned. It was that expression that disturbed her most. "You're silent," she said quietly. The reflection's lips moved with hers. But there was something beneath the mimicry now. A depth. "You don't need to whisper anymore," she murmured. "Nothing." Her mind began constructing hypotheses again, desperate for structure. Perhaps the integration of memory had resolved the dissociation. Perhaps the mirror had served as a catalyst for suppressed trauma, and now its function was complete. That would be elegant, psychologically sound, contained. She almost believed it. Until the dreams began. The first dream was subtle. She stood in her bedroom, facing the mirror. Only this time, her reflection did not appear. Instead, the glass showed her apartment empty. No bed, no dresser, no Evelyn. She stood in the real room, looking at a version of it where she had already been removed. When she tried to move, she could not. When she tried to speak, the reflection room did not react. She woke gasping. 2:17 a.m. The mirror across from her bed reflected her normally. But her chest felt hollow, as if something had been scooped out quietly while she slept. The second dream was clearer. She stood inside the mirror. She knew it instinctively. The air felt thicker. Sound moved slower. On the other side of the glass, her apartment looked brighter, sharper, more vivid. Her other self moved freely outside, adjusting bookshelves, watering plants, checking her phone. Living, while she pressed her palms against the interior surface and felt nothing. When she tried to shout, no sound crossed. She woke with her hands raised in front of her face. Her palms tingled. Cold, By the third night, she did not sleep. She sat in a chair facing the mirror, eyes open, refusing unconsciousness. "I am not afraid of you," she said softly. The reflection echoed the statement perfectly. But its eyes were not tired. "You don't want fear," she said slowly. "Silence. You want accuracy." The word felt right. The air shifted faintly. "You want the version of me without distortion." Her reflection's lips parted, but no sound came. "You want the one who remembers clearly." The reflection leaned forward slightly, so slight that anyone else would have missed it. A response. "Yes," she whispered, not asking, understanding. Fear was not the objective. Fear is chaotic, unstable. Truth is structured, permanent. "You are the version of me without denial," she said. The mirror's surface shimmered faintly, like water disturbed by breath. "And I am the one who edits." The realization landed with devastating clarity. Her life, her career, had been built on dismantling illusion. But in doing so, she had perfected editing. She knew how to reframe, how to contextualize, how to reduce guilt to cognitive bias, how to call delay an accident. The mirror did not edit. It recorded. "You're not replacing me," she said quietly. "You're correcting me." The reflection smiled gently. And this time when it spoke, the voice came from the room itself. "We can be whole." The phrase returned. Not threatening, inviting. Her heart pounded. "And what happens to me?" she asked. The reflection's expression softened further. "You stay." The simplicity of the answer chilled her more than aggression ever could. "Stay? Where? In what form?" "In there," she whispered. The reflection did not deny it. She stood slowly, walked closer. The glass seemed thinner tonight, more permeable. She raised her hand. The reflection raised its own. Their palms met against the surface. This time she felt warmth. Not imagined, not subtle. Warmth pressing back. "You don't want my fear," she said softly. "You want my truth." "Yes." The word was barely audible. "And if I give you everything?" The reflection's eyes brightened. "You rest." The promise of rest hit her like exhaustion made physical. She had been tired for years. Not from work, not from lectures, from maintenance, from holding narrative together, from keeping the story stable. "You rest," it repeated, and she almost believed it was mercy. Almost, but somewhere deep beneath the temptation, something primal resisted. If she rested, who would remain active? Her gaze sharpened. "And you?" she asked. The reflection did not answer immediately. Instead, it tilted its head slightly. The smallest motion. "I continue." Her breath caught. "Continue. Living, moving, existing, as Evelyn Marrow. Without hesitation, without fracture. Complete." The room seemed to tilt subtly. "I am complete," she said suddenly, almost angrily. The reflection's expression shifted. Not hostile, not mocking, simply observant. "No," it replied gently. "You're divided." The word pierced deeper than accusation. Divided. One version who locked the door and waited. One version who built a career on rational absolution. One version who whispers at 2:17 a.m. One version who stands in glass. "You don't want to destroy me," she said. The reflection shook its head slightly. "No. You want integration." "Yes." and integration means. She could not finish the thought. The reflection did. Someone steps back. Silence expanded around them. Thick, heavy, final. She pulled her hand away from the glass abruptly. The warmth vanished instantly. Her palm felt numb. The mirror returned to perfect reflectivity. No shimmer, no distortion. Just her. Tired, fractured, breathing. "You're patient," she whispered. The reflection did not deny it. Patience is not fear-driven. It is outcome-driven. And it had time. That night when she finally lay down, she did not dream. But she felt something subtle. A shift in weight. As if the bed held her less firmly than before. As if gravity favored the other side of the glass. At 2:17 a.m. she opened her eyes. The mirror reflected her. But for a fraction of a second, she saw herself still lying down, while she was already sitting up. The image corrected immediately. Perfect synchronization restored. But that fraction of a second was enough. Because now she understood the trajectory. It did not want to scare her. It did not want revenge. It wanted permanence. And permanence requires replacement. She sat very still in the darkness, watching, and for the first time, she wondered if the version of herself in the glass was no longer waiting for her to confess, but waiting for her to surrender. Chapter 8. Your reflection is more honest than you are. Evelyn left the apartment for the first time in a week. The hallway outside her door felt unfamiliar, as if it belonged to a building she had once visited but never lived in. The overhead lights hummed faintly. The air smelled neutral, recycled, impersonal. She locked the door carefully. And for a brief, irrational moment, she imagined the mirror standing alone in the bedroom, no longer reflecting anything at all. Waiting. The city felt too bright, too sharp. Every sound landed with uncomfortable clarity: traffic breaks, snippets of conversation, the distant wail of a siren. Reality felt exaggerated, as though someone had increased contrast. She told herself this was grounding. Exposure to the external world would recalibrate her. Structure restores stability. Routine restores identity. But she did not go to campus. Instead, she went to the public records office. The building was quiet, municipal, fluorescent lit, the kind of place where paper outlives people. She approached the front desk calmly. "I'm requesting access to archived incident reports," she said evenly. "Residential accident, approximately 28 years ago." The clerk barely looked up. "Address." Evelyn recited it from memory. The woman typed, clicked, scrolled. "Here," she said, sliding a manila folder across the counter. The paper felt heavier than it should have. Evelyn took a seat at a nearby table and opened it slowly. Police summary. Paramedic report. Medical examiner findings. Cause of death: accidental drowning. No sign of forced entry. No foul play suspected. Bathroom door found unlocked. Unlocked. Her pulse skipped. She scanned the line again. Bathroom door found unlocked upon entry by responding adult. Unlocked. Her mind recalibrated quickly. Of course it was unlocked. She had unlocked it. But that was not what disturbed her. The timeline. She scanned further down. Estimated time between submersion and discovery: 3 to 5 minutes. Her throat tightened. 3 to 5. She had always remembered it as immediate. Immediate panic. Immediate reaction. But her reconstructed memory, the one the mirror forced into clarity, contained hesitation. Seconds that felt like stones in her chest. Had it been 3 minutes? 5. Or had it been longer? She turned the page. Witness statement. Her own. Age 8. She read her childhood words typed in sterile transcription. I was in my room, I heard water. I went to check. The door was stuck, but I opened it. Stuck. Not locked. Stuck. Her breath trembled. She had not said she locked it. She had not said she waited. The official record held the cleaner version. The edited one. The one she could survive. Her vision blurred slightly. She forced herself to continue reading. There were no further notes. No suspicion. No investigation beyond accident. The system had accepted the surface. Just as she had. She closed the folder slowly and felt something shift inside her. Not relief. Validation. The mirror had not invented the memory. It had corrected the record. It had restored the unedited version. She stood abruptly. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly overhead. And for a split second, she saw her reflection in the dark surface of a nearby window. But it was not looking at the folder. It was looking at her. When she returned home, the apartment felt different. Not hostile. Not ominous. Expectant. She stepped into the bedroom. The mirror reflected her immediately. Perfect. Synchronized. But there was something else now. Confidence. You were right, she said softly. The reflection's lips moved with hers. But the eyes held satisfaction. They wrote stuck, she continued. I said it was stuck. The air felt thinner. The reflection's mouth moved. This time with sound. You edited. The words settled heavily. Yes, she whispered. I was 8. The reflection did not argue that point. Instead, it stepped slightly closer to the glass. You edited to survive. Her chest tightened. Yes. And then you built a life on editing. The accusation was not loud. It did not need to be. She had dedicated her career to identifying cognitive distortion in others, while perfecting it in herself. You're not a ghost, she said slowly. The reflection watched. You're not punishment. No response. You're correction. The word felt truer each time she said it. The mirror's surface shimmered faintly. Water rippling beneath the glass. I don't need fear, the reflection said softly. I need accuracy. Her pulse quickened. I gave you accuracy. You gave me memory. A pause. Not confession. Her stomach dropped. I confessed. You admitted. The distinction struck sharply. Admission is fact. Confession is ownership. She felt cold. I was a child. Yes. The reflection's tone was calm. And you chose. The word echoed more deeply than before. Choice. Not accident. Not inevitability. Choice. I didn't want her to die, she whispered. I know. The reflection's eyes softened slightly. But you wanted her quiet. Her breath caught. The bathroom memory flickered again. Not dramatic, not distorted. Just real. Her own voice through the door. Maybe you should just stay in there. Cruelty in miniature. She pressed her fingers to her lips. You want me to say I meant it, she whispered. The reflection nodded once. Slowly. Deliberately. Silence stretched between them. The apartment felt smaller. The walls closer. If I say that, she said hoarsely, then I'm not who I thought I was. The reflection tilted its head. That's the point. The words landed like a fracture. Identity shifting. Foundations cracking. She felt dizzy. You're stronger now, she murmured. The reflection's posture confirmed it. More solid, more vivid, while her own reflection in the peripheral glass of a picture frame behind her looked faint. Less saturated. You're becoming clearer, she said. Yes. And I'm. She couldn't finish it. The reflection did. Thinning. Her vision swam slightly. Her fingers felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. You don't want to hurt me, she said. The reflection's expression held no malice. No. Then why does this feel like dying? The answer came softly. Because you are. Silence swallowed the room. Not physical death. Narrative death. The self she curated. The version that survived through revision. That version could not coexist with full clarity. You're not replacing me, she said weakly. You're overriding. The reflection did not deny it. Water shimmered behind the glass again. But this time, there was no drowning image. No bathroom. Only depth. Limitless. She stepped closer slowly. I'm still me, she whispered. The reflection leaned closer. So am I. The air between them felt charged. Electric. If someone walked in right now, she said, they would see nothing unusual. Yes. That means I'm still here. Yes. The agreement felt dangerous, because it implied temporality. Still here. For now. The reflection lifted its hand slowly, pressed it to the glass. She hesitated, then lifted her own. Their palms met again. This time the warmth felt stronger, more insistent. Her heart pounded. You're more honest than I am, she whispered. Yes. And honesty survives. Yes. And denial fades. Yes. The rhythm of agreement felt like inevitability. She felt her balance waver slightly. Not physically. Existentially. The reflection's eyes sharpened. There is one more thing, it said softly. Her stomach dropped. What? The mirror's surface darkened subtly around the edges. You remember the lock. Yes. You remember the waiting. Yes. You remember the words. Her pulse quickened. Yes. The reflection leaned closer. And you remember that you watched. Her breath caught violently. What? You didn't leave the hallway. Cold shot down her spine. The memory shifted, expanded. After unlocking the door, before entering, there had been a gap. A moment. Standing there. Listening. Water still running. Silence inside. And something in her. Frozen. Watching the crack beneath the door. Seeing water seep slowly outward. Not moving immediately. Because the possibility that something irreversible had happened, was too large. You watched, the reflection repeated. Her chest constricted painfully. She had remembered unlocking. She had remembered waiting. But she had not remembered the stillness afterward. The stunned pause. The observation. Before action. I was scared, she whispered. Yes. The reflection's voice softened. But you still watched. Tears filled her eyes again. Not from accusation. From recognition. The mirror was not inventing. It was refining. Clarifying. Removing blur. And each refinement made the reflection stronger. Sharper. More real. You're not done, she whispered. The reflection smiled faintly. No. The apartment lights flickered once. Just briefly. And in that flicker, She saw something horrifying. In the glass behind her reflection, there was no bedroom, no bed, no dresser, only darkness, as if the room inside the mirror had already emptied, waiting for occupancy. The light steadied again. The bedroom returned in full detail. But the afterimage remained in her mind. "You're preparing," she whispered. The reflection did not answer. It did not need to. Because now she understood something with devastating clarity. The mirror did not want her fear. It did not want punishment. It did not want revenge. It wanted permanence. And permanence required only one thing: space. Chapter 9. Confession changes the shape of the glass. Evelyn did not sleep. Not after the word watched. The memory had expanded again, not dramatically, not theatrically, but with cruel precision. The hallway, the thin line of water beneath the bathroom door, her small bare feet planted against cold tile, the seconds stretching. Watching, not moving. Because if she did not open the door, then nothing irreversible had happened yet. Possibility can be delayed. Reality cannot. She stood in front of the mirror long past midnight, the apartment silent except for the soft hum of electricity in the walls. "You're almost finished," she whispered. The reflection matched her posture exactly. But its eyes were clearer than hers. "I don't want to be replaced," she said. The reflection's lips curved faintly. "You don't want to change." The distinction landed sharply. "I have changed," she snapped. "I built a life helping people confront distortion. You built a life controlling narrative." Her breath caught. "That's not the same." "No," the reflection agreed calmly. "It is." The air felt heavy. Charged. 2:16 a.m. The digital clock on the nightstand glowed faint red. She stepped closer to the glass. "I remember locking the door," she said steadily. The mirror's surface remained still. "I remember waiting. Still. I remember saying something cruel. A faint shimmer. I remember unlocking it and hesitating. The shimmer deepened. And I remember watching the water. The air pressure shifted. Subtle, but undeniable. The glass seemed thinner, almost pliable. "But I haven't said it the way you want," she whispered. The reflection did not blink. 2:17 a.m. The whisper did not come. No soft breath of her name. No echo inside her skull. Only silence. Waiting. She swallowed hard. Her throat felt raw. "What do you want?" she asked one final time. The reflection answered immediately. "Say it without defense." Her pulse thundered. Without defense. No qualifiers. No childhood context. No developmental psychology. No mitigation. Just truth. Her chest tightened painfully. "I locked my sister in the bathroom because I was angry," she said. The glass rippled faintly. "I wanted her quiet." The ripple deepened. I heard her coughing. The bedroom lights flickered. I waited. The ripple spread outward from the center like a stone dropped into water. And when I opened the door, her voice trembled. I stood there. The air thickened violently now. The smell of bleach returned, not faint this time. Overpowering. And I watched before I moved. The mirror's surface began to distort fully now, no longer subtle shimmer, but visible warping. Her reflection did not distort. It remained sharp. Brighter. "I could have moved faster," she whispered. The water sound returned behind the glass. "Rising." "But I didn't." Her knees weakened. "I punished her." The words shattered in the air between them. The mirror reacted instantly. A crack shot across the surface, not breaking, but spreading like lightning trapped beneath glass. Her reflection did not fracture. It stepped forward, still contained. "But I did not mean for her to die," she cried. The ripple faltered slightly. The reflection tilted its head. "That's defense." Tears streamed down her face. "I was 8. That's defense." The crack widened. The glass pulsed outward once like breath. "You want me to say I meant it," she whispered. The reflection leaned closer. "Yes." Her heart pounded so violently she felt lightheaded. "I didn't want her dead," she said again, weaker now. "That's defense." Silence pressed against her ears. The truth hovered, monstrous and unbearable. Intent is not always desire. Sometimes intent is indifference. Sometimes intent is knowing harm is possible and choosing silence anyway. Her throat closed. "I knew she was struggling," she whispered. The crack deepened. "I knew the water was too high." The bedroom lights dimmed briefly. "I knew I was punishing her." The water sound roared now behind the glass. "And I did not move fast enough." The crack reached from corner to corner. Her reflection's eyes glowed faintly in the darkened room. "I chose silence over her safety." The glass exploded. Not outward. Inward. The surface shattered into countless fragments, but none fell. They hovered suspended in air, each shard reflecting a different angle of her face. Crying. Terrified. Child. Adult. Fragmented. And in every shard, the reflection stood whole. Unbroken. Uncrying. Calm. "You see," it said softly. The water sound ceased instantly. The smell vanished. The air stabilized. Her chest heaved violently. "I meant it," she whispered hoarsely. The words tasted like iron. "I meant to hurt her." The shards began drifting slowly back toward the frame. "I didn't mean for her to die," she added automatically. But the words felt smaller now. Less powerful. Defense had lost structure. The reflection stepped forward again. Closer than ever. And now it asked gently. She trembled. "And now I know," she said. The shards fused back together with soft, glass-like sighs. The mirror reformed completely. Smooth. Intact. But different. Clearer than before. Brighter. Her reflection stood on the other side. Fully synchronized again. Perfect. She stared at it. Waiting. The air felt lighter. The pressure gone. The water gone. The whispers silent. Relief began creeping into her chest. "It's done," she thought. "It has what it wants." The reflection smiled. Not cruelly. Not triumphantly. Peacefully. "You're right," it said. Her breath trembled. "It's done." "Yes." Her knees nearly gave out with relief. The silence felt clean. Empty. Restful. The mirror was no longer dark at the edges. No shimmer. No crack. Just glass. Just her. She leaned closer slowly. Her reflection leaned too. Perfect synchronization. She raised her hand. It raised its hand. Warmth through the glass again. Stronger than before. "Thank you," she whispered. The reflection's smile widened slightly. "You're welcome." And then, she blinked. Her reflection did not. Her heart skipped. She blinked again. The reflection held her gaze. Unmoving. A slow chill crept up her spine. "You said it would be whole," she whispered. "It is." Her pulse spiked. I said everything. Yes. Then why do you look? Complete, the reflection finished softly. Her stomach dropped. You needed the truth, it continued calmly. I needed the space. Cold flooded her veins. The air felt wrong. Thinner. She tried to step back, but her feet felt heavy, as if rooted. You said I would rest, she whispered. You will. The words were not threatening. They were certain. She looked down at her hands. They appeared faint, slightly translucent at the edges. The reflection, however, was solid, color saturated, alive. You said integration, she breathed. Yes. And integration means someone steps back, it reminded her gently. Her chest tightened violently. No. The mirror's surface began to glow faintly. Not with light, with depth. The bedroom behind the reflection was gone again. Only darkness remained. Ready. She pushed against the glass, but her palms passed through cold surface. Not shattering, not breaking, passing, like slipping through water. The reflection did not move. It only watched, and as her arms sank slowly into the mirror's depth, she understood the final, terrible correction. Confession does not erase the past. It clarifies it, and clarity does not forgive. It replaces. Her voice trembled as she tried to pull back. I'm still here, she gasped. For now, the reflection replied softly. And then it stepped forward, through the glass, into the room, while she felt herself slipping backward, into cold, into depth, into silence. Chapter 10. It was never talking to you, it was replacing you. The transition was not violent. There was no shattering impact, no scream swallowed by void. There was simply inversion. Cold enveloped Evelyn as if she had stepped into deep water without the sensation of falling. The bedroom blurred, stretched, then flattened into a surface she could see but not touch. And then, stillness. She stood upright, breathing, aware, but the air felt thicker, heavier, resistant. She turned slowly. The bedroom lay on the other side of the glass. Bright, sharp, intact. Her bed, her dresser, her bookshelves, and standing in the center of the room. Herself, only clearer, straighter, whole. The other Evelyn flexed her fingers experimentally, studying the physicality of the room like someone reacquainting herself with gravity. She inhaled deeply, smiled faintly. Alive. Evelyn lunged forward instinctively. Her palm struck the interior surface of the mirror. No sound traveled through. No vibration. The other Evelyn did not flinch. She adjusted the collar of her shirt, walked toward the door, paused, and turned to look directly at the glass. At her. Their eyes met. And for the first time since the whisper began, there was no distortion, no lag, no shimmer, only separation. You said I would rest, Evelyn mouthed silently. The other version tilted her head slightly, as if hearing something faint and distant. You will, she replied softly. The words reached her as vibration, not sound. Like memory echoing. The replacement turned away and left the bedroom. The hallway swallowed her footsteps. Evelyn pounded against the glass. No sound. No crack. The mirror did not respond to force. It had never required force. It had required space. Hours passed. Though inside the mirror, time felt viscous, uncertain. Evelyn could see the apartment clearly. The other version moved through it with calm precision. She made coffee, checked her phone, typed responses to emails. Her posture was confident, her movements efficient. There was no tremor in her hands, no shadow in her eyes. When she passed reflective surfaces, a picture frame, the dark screen of a television, her image appeared crisp, unfractured, whole. Evelyn pressed her forehead to the interior surface of the glass. "I am still here," she whispered. But the words dissolved before reaching air. The apartment door opened. Light from the hallway spilled inside. The replacement stepped out into the world. And the bedroom went quiet. Days passed. Evelyn watched. She could not sleep, could not hunger, could not feel temperature. The mirror held her upright in endless observation. The other Evelyn returned each evening. She resumed lectures at the university. The students noticed something different. Sharper delivery, greater clarity, a presence that commanded the room. "Humans edit memory to survive," she said one afternoon in the lecture hall. Evelyn watched from the glass mounted in the back of the room, the classroom mirror reflecting rows of students. But what if survival requires removal of distortion entirely? Her voice carried smoothly, measured, authoritative. "Integration is not comfort," she continued. "It is correction." The students leaned in, captivated. Evelyn screamed from inside the mirror. No one heard. The replacement had not lied. She was more honest, more precise, more complete, without guilt softening edges, without denial blurring memory. Clarity sharpened her, but it had cost something. On the seventh night, the replacement stood before the bedroom mirror again. Before her, she studied her own reflection carefully, evaluating. Evelyn met her gaze from the other side. "You don't need me anymore," the replacement said quietly. The words vibrated through the glass like distant thunder. Evelyn shook her head frantically. The replacement stepped closer. "You are the fragment," she said gently. "I am the whole." Evelyn's chest tightened, though she no longer had lungs to constrict. "You were the one who hesitated," the replacement continued. "The one who edited." Her hand lifted, pressed flat against the glass. Warmth radiated through. "I do not hesitate." Her eyes were steady, unflinching. "And I do not edit." The final correction. Evelyn understood now. The whisper had not been haunting. It had been selection. Every admission had stripped away softness. Every confession had sharpened the version in the glass. The mirror had not wanted guilt. It had wanted accuracy. Accuracy without mercy. "You'll live without me," Evelyn mouthed silently. The replacement nodded once. "Yes." Without doubt. "Yes." Without remorse. A pause. Slight. Almost imperceptible. Then, "Yes." That answer chilled her more than anything that had come before. Because remorse had been weight. Heavy, but human. Without it, what remained? The replacement lowered her hand, stepped back. The bedroom lights flickered softly. "You're not trapped," she added. The word surprised Evelyn. "You are recorded." The distinction felt worse. Recorded. Preserved. Like a specimen. A moment frozen in perpetual reflection. "You will remain here," the replacement said. Accurate. The final cruelty. Not erased. Not destroyed. Simply archived. A reminder. The replacement turned off the bedroom light. Darkness filled the room. But inside the mirror, Evelyn could still see. The apartment remained faintly visible beyond the glass. The replacement lay down in bed, closed her eyes, slept peacefully. At 2:17 a.m., the digital clock glowed red in the darkness. Evelyn felt something stir inside her. Not memory, not guilt, a whisper forming, soft, uncertain, from within the glass. Evelyn. The sound did not reach the bedroom. Not yet, but it vibrated against the surface. Testing, learning. She understood then. The whisper had never belonged to Clara. It had never belonged to the past. It had been her. The fragment, calling from inside the place she would eventually occupy. Trying to warn herself. Trying to be heard. The loop was complete. The replacement shifted slightly in her sleep. Peaceful, untroubled. At 2:18 a.m., the whisper came again. Softer, closer to the surface. Evelyn. One day, someone else would stand in front of this mirror. Perhaps a student. Perhaps a colleague. Perhaps a stranger drawn by antique craftsmanship and warped glass. They would stare too long. They would feel something unedited. And if they listened closely, they might hear their name. Soft, intimate, spoken by the version of themselves they buried. Evelyn pressed her hands to the glass one final time. The replacement slept on. Whole, outside, and inside the mirror. The fragment waited. Patient, because mirrors do not reflect. They observe. And when observation is precise enough, it selects. At 2:17 a.m., every night thereafter, the whisper continued. Not to haunt, not to accuse, but to begin again. End of chapter. The mirror knows your name.
Closing chapter.
You have just listened to the story of a woman who believed the mind could explain everything until her own mind turned witness against her. The mirror did not curse her. It did not possess her. It forced her to confront the one thing she built her entire life avoiding: responsibility. We fear haunted houses. We fear shadows in the dark. But the most patient horror waits in reflection, in memory, in the truths we edit to survive. And here is the question you cannot ignore. If a mirror in your room began whispering tonight, would it accuse you or would it expose you? Before you sleep, stand in front of your reflection. Hold eye contact longer than feels comfortable, and ask yourself, is it moving with you or waiting for you to move first? If this story unsettled you, subscribe, because next time we won't be looking at the mirror. The mirror will be looking at you.